Welcome back. You tuned in to the Wednesday edition of your most favorite breakfast show, Good Morning Namibia. Now, the majority of radio stations at the NBC, where 11 radio stations are operated, broadcast from radio studios in Pettenkofer Street in Windhoek West area. The others are broadcast from elsewhere, amongst others. Kat FM emanates from the studios in Oshakati, while Water broadcasts from the studios in Rundu, and Wanyi from Katima Mulilo. Now, all these radio stations are available nationwide via digital terrestrial television. The question is, how has the radio space changed and evolved over the years for the Namibian Broadcasting Corporation? The NBC's Chief Commercial Officer, Umbi Karuaihe-Upi, as well as Franlin Thomas, the Acting Head of NBC Radio Services, now join me with more on this. Good morning, ladies, and welcome to Good Morning Namibia.
Good morning, Namibia. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. In the words of our veteran colleague, Mr. Vincent Ilkena, good morning, my seniors.
Yes, that's political.
I think it's appropriate for the occasion.
Okay.
Yeah, we honor where people are at. It's hard work that brought you to where you are.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Although it kind of brings also an element of making me feel quite old.
Oh no, but wiser, ne? Maybe not as smart, but wiser. Yeah, old and wise.
But certainly at this platform, we won't be ageist. Good Morning Namibia is a safe space.
Yeah.
So we won't hold anything against anybody. Yeah. Madam Karuaihe-Upi, let's please start with you. Talk to us about how NBC's radio services mandate has grown and evolved over the last couple of years in particular.
No, thank you, Denver. And I'm so happy today to talk about radio, really, because it's my favorite medium. So what I want to say is that radio, the NBC radio started with Ovambo Radio in 1969. And also, in the same year, we introduced the Oshero radio and the Damara Nama radio. And later in 1969, following up to 1981, we introduced the other radio stations. Now, you are asking me about the mandate. How did this mandate change? The mandate didn't change. When you look at the landscape of radio since then and up to now, when you look at the landscape, it has changed drastically when you look at the control and the ownership over the years. We all know the history of it, so I'm not going to go into that. But one thing that I have to really emphasize that never changed, one thing that never changed is the relevance of radio. Radio is actually more relevant today than before because it is more accessible, it's more affordable, and it's easier to use medium. And it's a love medium because you hear the voice of your favorite radio announcer, like we loved her when she was on the radio. You understand?
And we still treated to her intermittently, and we're grateful for that.
Yes. So you see now the power of radio, because it reaches, like here in Namibia, it reaches about 80% of the population. And all over the world, it reaches, even in the United States, up to 90% or 100% of the population. And you can see now the power of radio. And even now that we are celebrating radio today, it's wonderful that we have a special day for radio, because it is the day that, the decision makers can see, the importance thereof and how important the radio is in so many aspects, and also to celebrate that we can give the people access to information. And over the years, I have seen that the theme of radio has changed. I mean, it is since it started in 2011, it was introduced, when we started to celebrate
World Radio
Day. We had different themes. We have radio in gender, we have radio in the sports, we have radio in diversity, we have radio in innovation, and now we have a very important one, and we have the radio, in radio we trust. And you know why? It's amidst this new landscape that is changing.
Thank you.
The landscape that is changing, where we have disinformation and misinformation. And everyone comes to NBC to verify that information.
Absolutely.
And that's why the radio is more trusted. And that is how the landscape has changed. And I'm so happy to talk about it, because myself, as a beginner radio journalist, I know there's no medium like radio.
I think that's what we have in common, the three of us. It's our first love in any case. Thank you very much for that comprehensive and elaborate overview, ma'am. Ms. Thomas, building on radio's continued relevance, we do know that it does remain a critically important tool to disseminate factually correct and reliable information. Talk to us about that strategic responsibility.
The strategic responsibility to reach as many people as possible.
Whilst disseminating factually correct and relevant information.
And I think this is exactly why your question is so important, especially related to the theme in Radio We Trust. Radio still remains so reliable. Nowadays, you've seen, with especially the advent of social media, so many online radio stations are there right now. Even the formats of radio stations have changed. We've seen such an upsurge of radio stations, opening up here in Namibia very recently. But it's not only just about, giving the quickest or breaking news on radio, but it's also to ensure that the information that you provide to Namibians should also be accurate, should be factual, should be reliable. So it's not only just about breaking news, but it's to ensure that you inform Namibians in a very responsible way. And I think NBC radio stations have over the years been able to do just that. So in that sense, when it comes to trust, and also what we are responsible for strategically, I think we've accomplished quite a lot.
What can we thus say the medium of radio has accomplished compared to other mediums? We have heard Ms. Karuaihe-Upi speak to us about the 80% reach of the Namibian population, how in other jurisdictions you reach up to 90 or even 100% of the population.
What have the Namibian or NBC radio achieved?
Yes, and radio in general compared to other mediums.
You must also know that radio has changed, and that's also a good thing. So besides just broadcasting, being still the trusted form of broadcast, it has also developed, right? We had no choice with the advent of social media to adapt. And that is why radio, in particular NBC radio, incorporated in its strategy, how can we modernize radio in order to adapt. So with radio, even though it is the cheapest way of communicating, Namibians can afford portable radios even in the remotest of areas, and I think that is the one thing that really stands out, that Namibians can still access radio, especially those that do not have the internet, especially those that do not have electricity in remote areas. But we had no choice but also to become multimedia and to ensure that we become, even though we are audio, we have now incorporated visual as well through social media, whether it's on Facebook, especially in Namibia, Facebook is very popular, but also done so on Instagram. So we were able to change and adapt in such a way that we are now, multimedia.
And adopting an integrated approach.
Yes.
Ms. Thomas, please allow me to take one slight step back. I committed a huge oversight. This is your first public appearance in your capacity as the acting head of NBC Radio Services. So I do believe congratulations are in order.
Oh, okay, thank you so much.
Well done. Ms. Karuaihe-Upi, help us understand to what extent radio as a medium takes responsibility to capacitate sustainable growth and development seriously enough. Are we doing enough in that regard?
You can never do enough, but here at NBC, I think we are really we are doing the best that we can, because if you take all the radio stations, I can proudly say that with our 11 radio stations, we reach specific and fragmented, fragmented audiences, and that's why, because we have the different languages. We are also audience specific. And Namibia is it's a diverse country. It's a multilingual country, a multi-language country. But in their diversity, it's where our unity are. Because, in multiculturalism, you have to be able to really recognize and also to recognize the differences that there are in different people. And why I love radio so much, when you are, for example, on the Omurari or Kati or Hartklop, you are reaching a specific audience with specific needs. And that's why I'm saying that we are audience specific. And we are talking to the people in their own languages. Imagine you don't need to go to school in order to speak your language. but through the information that we are giving, because our mandate is clear that, like Franlin was saying, we are not a tabloid or, just music, just to give music. Our mandate is to inform and educate. And when you look at this mandate, it's so many things that happens. And even through COVID, you could see, what the radio actually does. Radio, I will give you a few things, maybe just for people to remember and to celebrate radio differently. We elevate poverty, for example. And that is the sustainability we're talking about. And how do we do that? When you tell people that, they can't believe it. They're like, how do you elevate poverty? We do that by giving you information how to do certain things in your own language for you to understand clearly. We help you to make the right decisions when you are going to vote, because you're giving you the right information. We look at your health. Like in COVID, we have seen that NBC, they step forward on radio and TV journalists, they step forward to show the world that we are the front line, we are the health workers, because we give the information that saves lives. You understand? And that's how important it is. And if you are speaking to me, you want to empower me in a language I don't understand, it means nothing. But if you come to me and you resonate with me and you speak in the way I understand, in my language, in my culture, in my, you are doing even more. We are even more than a community radio. We are everything in one.
And I think it's so important what Umbi is saying. That ability of NBC radio station, but also we have to give credit where it's due. Community radio stations across Namibia, even some commercial radio stations that do broadcast in local languages. I recall, when was it, when the vaccination process kick-started in the middle, was it, of last year? And unfortunately, the NBC was on strike. The impact that vaccination process or that strike had on the vaccination process, to kick off, was huge, because a lot of the health officials couldn't reach many Namibians, especially you've seen evidently those that listen to Kati FM or Wato FM in the north, in Rundu, that they couldn't reach them. So what happened as a result of, not having access to local languages to inform Namibians, for example, where should you go for vaccination, where are those vaccination points? So as a result of that, no access to radio at the time, especially those targeted in local audiences, the vaccination process kicked off at a snail's pace. And, that is how powerful radio is.
Yes.
That people trust and believe in radio. And if they haven't heard it on NBC radio, with all due respect, it did not happen. It is not true. And I think that is the trust that we are talking about if you talk about the theme.
Allow me to say the following. I concur with that very serious stance in terms of it. If it hasn't aired on NBC radio, it didn't happen. But the only medium that's equally powerful is, of course, Good Morning Namibia. So I hope you are able.
If didn't say it,
it didn't happen.
Ask that question.
It didn't happen.
It
didn't happen. Ms. Thomas, Ms. Karuaihe-Upi already touched on it, and according to her, it is not the case. But you also mentioned social media earlier, and we have a number of Facebook warriors in this country. Namibians who are very vocal in that virtual space. And part of the criticism that we have seen is that many radio stations just play music all day long. Is it your conviction that that criticism is indeed fair?
I can only speak when it, about NBC radio. Also being responsible for managing National FM, for example. You have to ask yourself the question first, what is the mandate of that radio station, right? Because nowadays in Namibia, with the upsurge in so many radio stations, our mandates differ. So you find radio stations that purely focuses on entertainment, gossip news, celebrity news, the latest fashion or social media trends. Their aim is to entertain. So if you ask a question like that, or there is such a complaint, you need to find out what is the target audience of that particular radio station. What age are they targeting? What gender are they targeting? So there are many things that you need to look at before giving such criticism. But in the case of the NBC, our mandate, especially as NBC Radio Services, is very, we're in a huge way a community radio station. We have a huge responsibility to ensure that we reach, even though we might have our target audiences, for example, maybe 30 to 60, we have a responsibility to ensure that we cater for each and every Namibian. So our grids are designed in such a way on NBC Radio that we ensure that we cater for that, that unemployed mother who is at home, that listens to radio maybe between 9 and 12 o'clock, for example.
Doing laundry, praying
Doing
for a
laundry,
job.
for example. That we cater for the young person. That we also cater for the young professional out there who is able to afford, to pay for something, for example. So if it is found, and I really want to challenge Namibian listeners out there, if it is found that any of the NBC radio stations are not adhering to their mandate to really educate and inform, not only just entertain, because that is not the only responsibility that we have, but if it is found that that is the case, Namibians have all the right in the world to raise a complaint and say, but you know, I wish to be informed. I want to know what's going on. Sometimes the criticism is not warranted, because sometimes people might be tuning in at certain times when there is a music program, because voorsiening word gemaak daarvoor, right? At certain times.
In accordance with the mandate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I know at Afrikaans Hartklop FM, in the more evenings you have different genres of music from 6 until 9 o'clock in the evening. So it depends on what time do you tune in. But what I know is in terms of the NBC radio grid, we cater, and it's a mixture of definitely news and current affairs, and any other, magazine type of programming. So we cater for everybody.
Denver, I also wanted to say something about that, because when we talk today about World Radio Day, it is clear that the idea behind it is to create pluralism in the media, is to create diversity, and as I said earlier, radio is democratic. It is for the old, it is for the young, it's for the poor, it's for the rich, it's for everyone, and it's incumbent upon yourself. If you want to listen to the music just tune in. All over the country, there are different genres for radio. You have the country, you have this, you have different, country, R&B music, and stuff like that.
Press the button.
And we have the talk shows.
Turn the button.
Just turn the button, because each and every one has a right to listen. If you see that radio stations is only talking, just playing music, go to another. If you see like a Touch FM is for young people, if us all people go there and you are then frustrated, it is your own fault. Because with the World Radio Day, we look at diversity, pluralism, and access to information, freedom of expression, so that each and everyone, poor or old, rich or poor, old or young, they have access to that information. So live and let live. And that's why now, with the changing landscape of our media, and also with the change of ownership and control, we have women who also own media. Who also own radio stations. We have blacks. In the past, we didn't have that. So everything, when you look at the regulation, it has the airwaves has been liberalized.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when the people are listening to the music, let them be. Go to.
It's about choice, I think.
Go
at the
to
end of the
National
day.
FM and listen to the real news, the most trusted news. Go to Good Morning Namibia.
Yes, be here, it's ours.
Exactly.
Ladies, there's no doubt about it that we could carry on for at least 7 days uninterrupted.
Yes.
I'm sure you agree.
Yep.
But unfortunately, we don't have that luxury this morning.
Oh no, we don't want to go.
I'm going to have to say goodbye to you, but you can come visit us again.
Okay.
Yeah, Ms. Thomas, for viewers, for listeners tuned in at the present moment, ahead of World Radio Day, do you have a special message for them, please?
I really want to encourage listeners, especially NBC Radio, that our aim continuously remain to provide as accurate information as possible, to make sure that the information that we share with Namibians out there, that it's fact-checked, and that we do not allow for irresponsible reporting, reckless reporting that can really stir up unnecessary division in our country. That is the one thing that we will, continue to promise. But that also, I want to call on viewers and our listeners that they must take ownership of their radio stations. That is why we have so many local languages in this country. They must take ownership, and if there is, for one or the other reason, a problem or a challenge that they have the right to complain, and they can do so freely, openly, so that we can ensure that, especially this year's theme in Radio We Trust, is really implemented. Yeah, so that's my message.
Kay Ayos, the boss lady.
Yes, no, I just want to thank all our listeners out there, because you are the most important shareholder for us, or stakeholder, let me say stakeholder. We want to thank you for your participation, and without you, we cannot be here. So thank you very much, and continue to use that medium for your own benefit, and also to enrich yourself in any way that you could, and we will continue to give you the information that you need, because we are mandated to do so, and we actually enjoy it.
Okuhepa.
Okuhepa shinene.
And I'll just, if I quickly, join us on Friday in Rehoboth at Kairos radio station, where we will be broadcasting live, and NBC radio stations will all be broadcasting from there, so we'll see you there.
Now separation anxiety has kicked in, and I don't want to let you go.
I know, I can see that.
Yeah, but thank you very much. It has been
Thank
nothing
you.
short of a delight and a treat to have you, and continue the good fight, and continue the amazing work that you both continue to do.
Thank you.
so
Yeah,
much.
we are walking in the shadows and on the shoulders of immense giants.
Thank you so much.
There you have it, NBC's Chief Commercial Officer, Umbi Karuaihe-Upi, as well as Franlin Thomas, the Acting Head of NBC Radio Services, talking to us about all matters radio. We're right back after a brief break.